Yo ho, pirates! Welcome back. Today we're exploring the newly released Tempest Tarot Deck. As someone who has always loved pirate lore, oceans, and for those who don't know, my very first tattoo was actually an anchor on my forearm, and I also have a clam tattoo. I'm a big fan of water and the ocean. And so is the deck creator Maisie. She's been reading tarot for 12 years and used this knowledge to create this beautiful work of art. Starting out with the guidebook for this deck, it's small, but the illustrations on the outside are such a cool vibe, and the card descriptions include keywords for upright and reversed. It explores a short paragraph about each card, often connecting it to the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith illustrations. And the major arcana cards in the guidebook also include a planetary correspondence, so it's a very short guidebook, but it is well written, and I just love the art. The Tempest Tarot will be released by US Games on April 30th, 2025, and I want to say a big thank you to them for sending me this early access to the deck. There was no requirements to post about the deck, and of course, all opinions are 100% my own, but for full transparency, just wanted to let you know. Now, I absolutely love Maisie's description of this deck, so I really want to quote it directly from her website because it's so beautiful and I feel like it fits the vibe better than I could ever try to. This deck is meant to draw you in. It's supposed to appeal to your senses. When you use this deck, I want you to smell the ocean, feel the spray of the waves on your face, taste the salty sea on your tongue. I want you to feel the danger lurking within our skeletons, but I also want you to feel the sense that myths may not be so mythical, and above all, anything is possible. So beautiful, and I think how she describes the deck is so very true. The artwork really does come alive and it feels immersive. One small change that Maisie made in this deck is actually swapping out one of the suits. So cups, pentacles, and swords are the same, and she made wands telescopes, which I think is absolutely adorable, and it fits the theme of the deck really well, but also makes perfect sense as a wand because we're looking to the future. And the thought or design of a literal wand inside a very piratey, oceany tarot deck is a little bizarre, so the switch to telescopes is really brilliant and it's very, very beautifully done. Now, if you know my personal tarot deck style, I tend to love decks that have a lot of small details and a lot of color. Well, you may have noticed that this deck doesn't really have either of those things, but I'm making an exception because I absolutely love the way that this deck does use the color that it has. Like, it's not a very broad color palette that was used. However, it feels like it is more colorful than it actually is, if that makes sense. Like, it actually took me a little bit to notice that this deck doesn't really have very much color at all. But when it does use color, it feels very well intentioned and it makes a lot of sense. And the cards, especially like in the major arcana that have a lot of color, they feel extra special. This deck is almost like whenever you pick a card from it, it's like some of the designs, the colors, and the details feel like a little treasure that you might get because they're just each so unique, you really never know what you're going to get. I also loved how Maisie stayed true to the Rider-Waite-Smith style, so even on some of the cards that are a little more plain, I feel like I can still very much pick up on the energy of the card. And you know, I'm very particular about that. I'm not usually a fan of Pips decks for that reason because I just find I spend way too much time trying to rationalize and figure out which is which card. But with this deck, I actually did not find that a problem, even though some of the minor arcana are a little bit more plain. The small details that she does add actually make this deck quite intuitive, regardless of its simplicity, which is very, very hard to do. I also must say that I really love the title of this deck. A tempest is a violent windstorm, and this deck really does feel like you've been sailing leisurely and suddenly are off course in this strange pirate land where sirens are calling you, and somehow you've had 5 pints of ale and you wind up curled next to an octopus for the night. And I didn't know it, but that's exactly what I wanted in a tarot deck. So you'll have to let me know what you think of the Tempest Tarot. Is this one that you're going to be purchasing or passing on?